Welcome to Innovate Presents Entrepreneurs in Tech. Today, we're delighted to have our favorite guest, Dr. Maya Ackerman, who is the founder and CEO of WaveAI. Dr. Maya, thank you for joining us today. For our viewers who might not be familiar with you, please introduce yourself, give us a small introduction about your insights and your background. And before we dive into it, I'm sure it's going to be extremely insightful and informative for our audience on Entrepreneurs in Tech.
Thank you so much for having me, Bob. It's just such a pleasure to be on your show.
My pleasure.
I have been so fortunate in my life to have discovered generative AI 10 years before it became popular. I found it as a little community called Computational Creativity, a tiny little research community, mostly out of Europe. And I switched my research field from hardcore machine learning to this little niche thing, like, can machines create music and art and stories? Why isn't this popular? Why does nobody know about it? And so I did a ton of research into it and opened a company back in 2017, one of the earliest generative AI startups, well before, the end of 2022, which is when generative AI became big.
Became the word, the trendiest word online. You know what? I gotta have to apologize to our viewers and listeners for not mentioning also Dr. Maya Ackerman is an author. Am I right?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I am currently writing a book on creative machines, which is going to launch in about a year.
Oof. You know what? I do want a signed copy. If you do a hard copy, I would like to a signed one from you. I know this book will be amazingly, I think once I read it, I'll be extra smart. I'll be smart. Now I'm not, but I will be after reading that book.
I'll definitely get you a signed copy.
Please, let's dive into it. So you're one of the first people that I spoke to before. We spoke quite a few times to each other, and I know you're one of the people who really kind of dive into AI before anybody paid attention to it. And AI been around. How long? Let's just say AI and some of the bigger companies been involved with it. Been involved in the innovative side of it and creating it and working with it many years ago.
That's a really good question. So generative AI started in academia, and there are even papers dating back to the 1950s. 1950s. By the 1980s, we had systems like Aaron and Amy that were making beautiful art, beautiful music. Like, I'm talking here stuff that's already past what used to be called kind of the Turing test, and now it's called the discrimination test, meaning that people already couldn't really tell the difference between what the machine made and what humans made. 1980s.
Wow.
But it wasn't mainstream. And it was only around 2016 that the kind of big tech, Google, IBM, Microsoft, started gently dabbling into it, not really commercially, but sort of a side project. Google Magenta started playing around with music. There were a whole bunch of IBM Watsons that did things like Watson Chef, but it was really niche. What was really interesting, though, is that these projects, even though they were kind of niche, got a lot of PR. So it kind of looked like they were inventing it, whereas they were really doing variants on what has been happening in academia for a while. So that's really the early days, and things woke up closer to 2022.
Why you think nobody pushed the envelope back then? Let's say back in the 80s when they were making. I mean, like the generative AI tool of AI was made already back then, and the artwork tool, and I'm sure many other tools that I wouldn't even know about. You might heard of that hasn't been kind of publicized. Is it the money to be? They said it's too early, or just.
I love this question, Bob. It's so profound. Like, if we think about ourselves as a collective intelligence, kind of all of humanity.
Yes.
We as humanity tend to come up with things decades before anybody finds out. And I was pitching my company starting in 2017. I was pitching AI systems that would enhance human musical creativity. And the vision has remained almost unchanged as the world has changed. And I remember investors back then, they just didn't have that vision. They were it was kind of an AI winter, and we need the researchers, the people at the cutting edge, to have tighter relationships with the investor community, to help the investor community make decisions. Because it was really, in 2022, when Stability AI, the CEO of Stability, started pitching, because he was really well connected in the space, even though he was kind of a newcomer to AI, he was able to start getting people excited. So it was not even OpenAI that got them excited. So it's kind of a really insider world, and it sometimes just takes a very, very, very long time for something amazing to become hot in the venture space. And once investors get excited, that's when things really start happening in the real world. So investors are actually such a powerful player, and they can be such a powerful ally in making the world a better place too. But they need to sort of open their minds to the insights found in academia.
I mean, I would say also, not to mention, when you do machine learning or AI, which you need it for AI, that's what they've been doing. Servers are much cheaper right now. Back then, you would need physical servers. There was no cloud. Well, available to us. Probably the cloud been around, but not available to the general public as it is right now.
It's really
And
fun. You don't need big models to do amazing stuff with generative AI. It's such a
really,
misnomer. I think it's kind of like this bigger is better. Look at my fancy car. Look at me tearing down a forest. Look how strong I am. Like, it's that mentality that made the powerful people in our world prioritize big models. Big models are amazing. Don't get me wrong. You can do more with big models. There are things that you need big models for. Let's just put it this way. But a lot of applications are done better, or at least stunningly well, with small targeted models, which we've been doing since the 1950s in academia. This whole like
really.
fixation on large models. And again, I see their place. I love the innovation in so many ways, but it is not equivalent to generative AI, and it's not necessary for generative AI.
Dr. Mai, do you like kind of want to kick yourself in the back and say, hey, why didn't I started this back in the 80s or back in, let's say, in the 90s at least? Oh, 90s. Let's say the 90s. You
Well,
know?
I was born in the 80s, so
Okay, the 90s. How about the 90s? I know you're young. I know you're very young. You're way younger than me.
in
But
the 90s I was too young. I was just I went to school in the 2000s. I went to
yes.
college and I got in not as early as possible, but as soon as I discovered that this exists. I got in. There's a whole bunch of academics, which are sort of, considered luminaries in the space, and a lot of them rightfully so, who were not actually doing generative AI this whole time, who were doing machine learning. Generative AI was a teeny tiny community of about 100 people. That was 10 years ago, around 2014, when I got involved, 2015. It was just, a few dozen people doing it on the whole planet. So I actually got involved super early. And I would have gotten involved in grad school had I known that it existed. But, when it's something is this niche,
Yes.
I got so lucky to discover it in my first year as a professor. And I did something super risky. I dropped my research field in foundational cluster analysis, hardcore mathy things. Dropped it in my first year as a professor. Got told off by my department. Love those people. But, I did this like radical thing, switching my research field in my first year as a professor. And so even then, even kind of like, it took a lot of guts to do something that wasn't popular. And when it got popular, I was shocked. I was not like trying to be in a popular field.
When things get popular, there's a lot of copycats out there.
Oh, God.
And yes, and I feel the term AI, especially this year, 2024, it's being used so loosely. It's not even funny. And the kind of misconception of AI and ML and everything, anything automated, people say it's AI, or it just there's so much of it that I feel I haven't seen anything new, at least in the industry I'm in, which is the music industry, new, because I feel like it hit a plateau. And I haven't seen any new innovations, anything like really kind of revolutionary or revolutionizing in AI, and other industries also. I should say that even in other industries, because I'm always connected out there. I speak to a lot of people. I haven't seen anything new, like really, okay, now somebody took the word AI, the real innovative side of AI, and created something that solved a problem, something that really needed to be something done about it.
That's because of the way that the venture world works. And again, I believe that venture firms can be such an amazing partner. I really see their they're so important. It can be like just the best partner, but they tend to have a herd mentality, and they own that. They tend to sort of copycat each other, and they sort of discovered these large models, and they saw that OpenAI is successful, with ChatGPT, and they sort of keep investing in the same stuff. And even, large models are so powerful, but even with large models, there are so many more things you can do, and you can do things with smaller targeted models, and it's not that AI is stuck, it's that sort of the ecosystem that makes things popular is stuck on one very, very narrow vision, kind of groupthink. But if you go, for example, to the International Conference on Computational Creativity, or, I just gave a talk at Oxford at an AI music conference, researchers are thinking in many, many different super interesting directions. And what I'm most excited about, what makes me just makes my heart pump, is that you can use AI to make a human being more creative in the following sense. In a sense that you use a system, and then even if you never use it again, you become a more creative human being. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? It's like with a person, right? Like, there are people who are so amazing and so creative and so giving and generous and humble that from working with them, you become better.
Yes.
Right? Instead, AI right now is arrogant. It wants to replace you. So this is the shift that we need to see. We need AI that elevates humanity and doesn't secretly pull the rug from under us. And there are ways to do it, and I know exactly how to do it. And industry is very, very, very slowly figuring it out.
Do you feel that kind of overuse this term, replacing people? I mean, not now, maybe 5, 10 years from now, the real AI comes in, it kicks in. There's a possibility, I guess, but now it's being used. I think they kind of just like a rumor and went bad. A rumor went bad. That's how I feel about, AI going to replace humanity. No, it's not going to replace anybody. It's actually an enhancement tool to make your work much better, faster, more creative, and you don't have to do certain tiny little tedious things. You can focus on the bigger picture, whether it's sales or communication or relationship or PR. Depends what type of business you're in, obviously. AI should come in as a way to organize things, to make things more organized, more focused, so you can always look at the general picture instead of always getting into every tiny little thing, do it manually.
Okay, there's so much to unpack there.
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I can do a lot more
Yes.
to help organize little things.
Yes.
AI, I think we need to stop as a society pretending that it's not creative and it's not competent. This needs to stop because it's nonsense. Because it's
Amazing.
already
Well said.
at so many ways. Like, the reason that we keep lying to ourselves is because we're terrified and we don't want to be replaced. And now I'm going to give you an analogy that's going to make everything clear. Let's say you're trying to write a song with a Grammy Award winner songwriter. They are incredible. And let's say you tell them, I want to write a song to my wife about how we met, whatever, on a trip to Orlando, some details.
Yeah.
And in 2 hours, so the person turns around in 2 hours, they write this amazing song for you. They chose to replace you, okay? That same person could have chosen to work with you and make you into a better songwriter. So it's not about their brain. It's not about how smart or capable they are. It's about how they choose to work with you, okay? Right now, the way the big companies are thinking about it, the way that the investment community is thinking about it, is replacive. But they are learning that the business opportunity is better if instead they are supportive. That's why ChatGPT is successful. So the AI is powerful. We could attempt to use it to replace people. It's a bad idea for a million different reasons. Sure. And it should be used to support people.
Yes, it is. It is. Absolutely. Well said. I like the way you kind of summarize the whole thing. What led you to kind of take, you started your own startup, WaveAI. Why not in different kind of field? Why you said, you know what, I want to do it in the music business. This is my passion as well. Yes, there's a piano behind you. Obviously, you love music. You play piano. And what led you to take that path instead of maybe in a different fields, instead of starting AI, building something in the music field, in medical and, education and different, whatever?
I'm going to tell you a sad story. Thank you for asking this question. It's very close to my heart. When I was a little girl, we had a piano, and my mom got me piano lessons. And then when I was 12, so in 3 years, I learned how to play grade 10 piano. I had a gift. And we moved to Canada from Israel when I was 12 years old, and my parents wouldn't buy me an instrument. Just didn't. The whole time that I lived at home, and music was ripped out of my life. It was terrible. It was really tragic for me that I couldn't make music anymore. And when I was an adult, when I was 27 years old, I learned how to sing opera. It took me about 9 months to become semi-professional and start performing. That was done in parallel to getting a PhD in machine learning. And when I was 29, I bought a piano and I relearned how to play. I love music more than anything else in the world. And when I got stuck with songwriting, when I realized I really, really wanted to write my own songs and I got stuck, I tried for 3 years to write my own songs. And so when I discovered generative AI, in fact, in my very first day at the conference, the International Conference on Computational Creativity, the pieces came together. I can make a system that would help me get unstuck, that would help me come up with different melodies, come up with different lyrics, just help me explore the space of creative possibilities. And I saw everything in 1 second. It was incredible. It was this moment that my whole life brought me to. I can build a system that would be co-creative with me. Actually, my book, it shared a lot of my personal stories. And so this is what, for me, it's not just like generative AI for whatever, let's come up with some business use case that's going to make us the most money. I care about human creativity, and I know that this can be used to really elevate us, but it needs to be done right. And so that's what I've been doing, and that's why we have good retention with Lyric Studio. That's why people use Lyric Studio, Melody Studio, our tool, because they become better musicians. So it's really largely about music for me, and definitely about creativity.
Interesting. Love how you turned it around and made it into a positive, progressing kind of evolve, and it evolved towards positivity and something that could be very useful, for others. So you contribute to humanity, advancement. I love it. Yes. And that's the whole, obviously, what you've been talking about since we started this interview or this discussion is, we need to get away from this stigma that it's out there. AI is not to replace people, to increase your creativity, increase your production, help you better.
But also need the right tools, right? It's not all AI tools are designed for it.
Yes. We spoke, I think, earlier this year on my other podcast, Soundbreaker, and we focused more on the music. Since we spoke, here we are again towards the end of October, let's say towards the end of the year. How much evolvement and how much, you would say, changed in AI out there since the first time we spoke? Back in February or January, I think we spoke, something like this. Yeah.
February, January. Okay, of Udio and Suno became more popular.
Yeah. Lawsuits and all of that.
Lawsuits, that's right.
Yeah.
But honestly, I just feel like what needs to be done is so obvious.
Yes.
Build tools that genuinely support human creativity. Because it's not just about don't use my data. I mean, obviously.
Yes.
But it's not just that. It's about do something that will be good for musicians. Don't come in and be like the Uber that gets rid of all taxis, but in the music space, robots replacing all musicians. Do it in a way that actually helps people. And that's why people are mad. Because they can tell that the wrong thing is happening. So of course they're mad. Of course there are lawsuits. So it's sort of this storm, this rage that we're seeing play out in the world. But the solution is to build tools that really support people. Because if musicians come in and they're like, oh my God, I feel so empowered. I wrote my best album. I feel like a better musician, and don't feel like it's secretly ties their hands behind their back. Then musicians become receptive to it. Then it works together with the industry. And so sometimes the details that for people are fighting about, I look at it and I'm like, zoom out a little bit. zoom out and look at what the real problem is, you know? Sure, you know, generative AI and our legal system are not very well aligned. Generative AI and our IP system is not very well aligned. But there's a deeper problem here. And once we address the deeper problem, everything else can be figured out.
Correct. Correct. Yes, absolutely. You know, everybody loves to talk about AI ethics and all of that, and I just say it's very challenging because there's no regulations. There's talks about it. But how can you regulate technology? It's everybody could, you know, whoever has knowledge of it and able to build it. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. Like, how can you pin certain things? Yes, they control it through internet because that's where the technology is going to go. Obviously, that's how it's going to be used. But still, is it hard to regulate it or the?
Of course.
Yes.
It's incredibly difficult. Of course. It is insanely difficult to regulate. And you're also trying to regulate extremely powerful players. Extremely powerful players.
And it changes so quickly. You cannot put a time on it, limit, because you put a regulation today, tomorrow, day after, you're already about a year, you know, the technology a year ahead already.
Exactly, because this is not the point. The point is not let's try to chuckle it, let's try to control it, let's try to make sure. You can't. It's out of the box, and it's magnificent. What we need is a goodwill and know-how to apply it in the world in a way that benefits people. And this is a human thing. It's not an AI thing. It's a human thing. We need humans to invest in entrepreneurs that are capable and want to do the right thing. And if we have enough of that in the world, then that will at least outweigh some of the risks posed by people who don't want to do the right thing, by people who tear down forests and destroy our environment and will happily take jobs from all musicians. So we counter that by having people in this ecosystem and investing in people who are building systems to genuinely elevate musicians, and musicians know if their creativity is being elevated or not. It's not some kind of ambiguous thing. You try the system and you know. And so it's really it's humanity. It's humanity. It's not AI. AI is neutral, okay? It's a machine. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have morals. It doesn't have values. But humans have morals and values. And we need to move the field in the right direction and use generative AI as a way to elevate humanity. We need the correct intention. And we sometimes imagine that everybody in the world has our values, you know? And that the AI is just so evil that there's nothing you can do about it. This is complete nonsense. Everything you're seeing happening is on purpose, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff. And we need more people with the right values who care about humanity, who care about future generations, building tools that are actually helpful. I think that's the bottom line. That doesn't mean that the other details aren't important. They're very, very important. But I think too often we're missing this like basic thing that's underlying everything that's happening in the world.
Yes, I mean, that's absolutely, because I always thought about it myself, like how could it be regulated? But this is a technology that evolving every second, every minute. You know, between today and tomorrow, it'll be somebody in his basement or his little bedroom or his office or in his lab coming up with something different, something new. And it's going to evolve very quickly. It's so quickly, it's not even funny. But yes, you're right. I mean, a lot of the things that are being innovated or invented and put out there available to use, a lot of it's done for a quick buck, to turn a quick buck. And that's what, and you know, that's always ruins everything in anything you do, in any type of business. There's always people. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add something. Like,
please.
It's also a lack of imagination. Okay, like this idea of like, okay, I have a machine now that can make music. There are people right now making music that make money. I'm gonna take this machine and steal the money from the musicians. This is such a primitive, unimaginative way of looking at innovation. Yes. It's almost like the people who are trying to do this are just not smart enough to realize that this is a cheap, outdated perspective at the world. I have no respect for this point of view because it's so like, it's almost like this has worked in other industries. Stealing people's job is a way to make money. But it doesn't mean that it's even the best way to make money. It's just a way that has been proven. So We need people with power and money to have more imagination, to be able to overcome old models of making money. So that's another problem, just people being stuck in these old, evil ways of conducting business that is not even the most profitable way of doing things.
True, very true. Imagination, that's what get us where we are now. Yes, true. You need to have an open mind, like think beyond the box, beyond making a quick dollar. Just think beyond it. Think 10 years from now. How can this be profitable for humanity? Not profitable to your pocket or bank account. No, like what can you add and contribute? Sure, you'll make money. Don't worry about that. You will. How can I do something to advance? When I say generative AI, when I say open AI, the prompt text tool AI that helps you write better letters, better resumes, is it a bad thing? I think it's a great thing. I think it helped a lot of people, to communicate through emails and through, all of that way much better. Why not? I think it's a positive tool. Did it put people out of jobs? No, I think it added more jobs. There's other people actually, using OpenAI they created businesses out of it, if they know how to, they call them prompt engineers, I guess. I don't know.
Bob, I love what you're saying. So let's zoom into that.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, the most successful product in generative
Yes.
AI.
Oh, yes.
It's fantastic. It is interactive.
Yes.
You can use it. You can edit it. You can let it do the work.
Yes.
You can do the work. You can go back and forth with it.
Yes.
It's a partner. It's a partner. Let's look now at text-to-image models, right? Have you ever used like Midjourney, DALL-E?
No, I really haven't. Honestly, no.
If anybody, go use them. Go use this stuff, and you will see the problem. It is so powerful.
Wow.
So powerful. But it takes the creativity from under you. You feel like, so they try to add like in-painting. You type a little prompt, get an image, they try to add in-painting. But still, you have so little control. You kind of get frustrated. You're like, oh, but I wanted this to be different. And you can't just be like, oh, make this little change. Then it just wants to restart from scratch. And if you want to do this in-painting, you can kind of make it work, but you have to struggle against it. Because it's all about empowering the human being. And when a system blocks you, when it tries to be the star of the show, it fails. And while text-to-image models are still popular, ChatGPT is what we consider equivalent to AI, which is pathetic. Just because of how human-centric they ended up making this product. That's what needs to happen in the entire industry. Every single product, especially for music, well, in particular for music, entirely human-centric. So the human is as empowered or more as somebody writing an email with ChatGPT.
Yes, absolutely. Well, speaking of that, what does human-centered AI mean to you?
So I developed a model called Humble Creative Machines.
Humble Creative Machine.
Humble Creative Machines. It's a lot deeper than human-centered. So the creative machine needs to be humble. It needs to be like instead of like the star of the show, it's like the guru in the background who doesn't care at all about credit, who doesn't care at all about being known, that just wants to elevate you and help you make you as good as possible. And that means that you need to have control of the creative process. You need to have control of the creative process. You should be able to do whatever you want in the song that you're writing, or the picture that you're painting, or the story that you're writing. And it should support you where you need help, how you need help, whenever you need help. It's this hyper-intelligent guru that collects the creativity and intelligence of the entire world because it learned from that data. And it's there to support Bob Shami in his writing of his song, never taking one little thing from your capabilities, never taking the wheel from under you, but supporting you in exactly how you want to be supported. And there's a lot of details, and in my book I'm also going to outline kind of the details of what it means to create a humble creative machine and what kind of like how you do it in detail. This is where the field has to go. This is like, it's not like one of many options. This is where it has to go to genuinely elevate humanity. And it's not harder, even, it's not more difficult. It's just about having the right vision, the right intention. And then we're living in a world where AI is a next step in human evolution because it makes us more capable, just like the printing press made us more capable, just like the internet and social media. Well, social media has so many problems, but ultimately, the internet made us more connected and more capable. It didn't take over, and it needs to be the
Yes.
same thing with generative AI.
So, is it fair to say AI augmenting, not replacing human creativity?
Not even augmenting.
Yeah.
It's not augmenting. It's elevating. It's teaching us. It's the background that supports us. It's like it's the humble creative machine in the background.
I like that, the humble creative machine. I really like it. Yes. Yeah, the humble, I think we should do a summit on it. The humble creative
Oh, I
machine.
would love that.
I
That'd be
swear,
amazing.
I love it because it's really, it's about elevating. It's that machine in the background, that person in the background. Like you have this big investor in the back. It's like, listen, I got the money. And the machine, I got the brain. It's okay. I don't need to be in the front. It's you. I want to push you. We need to put you in the front stage. Yes, I like that. I like that. Let's talk about women in AI, women in tech in general. I see a big flux of it. I'm a big supporter and advocate for that. I do have little three daughters, so I have to.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes, but let's talk about that. And what's your role? I know you're always out there speaking. I see you very active on LinkedIn always. It doesn't matter what it is. You're always giving speeches, writing articles, extremely active. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our friendship, obviously, and have you on the show. So please, let's speak about women in AI and your advocacy on it and women in leadership and in tech.
Oh, I have so much to say about that. First of all, I
Yes,
feel like
please.
it's time. I feel like it's time for women to start leading. The world needs the point of view that women bring.
Okay, I want to say something.
Sure.
I heard, and I think I seen it, that women are better investors than men. Is
Um,
it true?
there's some research showing that they're better CEOs. There's some ambiguity
Yes.
around that, but they're definitely not worse. The research is very, very clear that they're at least on par with men in their leadership capabilities. They're also excellent investors.
Yes.
So the question is, why don't we have more women leaders? So I
Yes,
actually
in tech especially.
I
Yeah.
conducted research on that because, I have so much personal experience being underrated. I could write an entire book about that alone, but don't even get me started on the nonsense I had to experience personally. Anyways, along with my student, Juliana Shihade, we conducted research on what's called brilliance bias. So brilliance bias is an existing bias based on other people's work in psychology, which is an implicit belief, this kind of subconscious bias that virtually all of us have. It develops around age 6. And it's a belief that exceptional intelligence is a male trait. So when somebody thinks of a genius or a super smart person, starting around age 6, we start to imagine a man, which means that women don't end up pursuing as much highly intellectual activity. People don't recommend women for professions that require high intellect. And as a result, the world misses about 50% of its potential geniuses. Because women, as we know, like right now that women are allowed in college for several decades, we actually have more women in college than men. It's just kind of its own form of crisis that needs to be considered as far as how to support boys better. And that's a separate issue. The point is that there is this enormous resource, maybe investors want to think of it as another, human resource, whatever, of brilliant, I'm talking here like world leading geniuses who are not given a chance because, they have braids, because they have a bow in their hair. And, I've experienced this, as a gifted child, since I was born. This kind of absolute nonsense. I compare my childhood experiences to the experience of gifted men, and it's night and day. And I compare my experience as a grown adult woman, as, a pioneer in the hottest field on the planet, and the experiences are night and day in the way that me and much less qualified men are treated. So it's really an atrocity. The way, like, a woman has to be probably about 10 times better to get 30% of the chances. And it's something that we need to work on as a society. Recognizing that bias, recognizing that we were taught that exceptional intelligence belonged to men, and really question ourselves when we're hiring, when we're recommending somebody for jobs, when we're making investment decisions. Am I taking this man more seriously because it's a man? Or if I actually look at the ideas themselves, if I look at the content, then where is the best stuff found? Anyways, we were able to show, just to quickly wrap that idea, we analyzed GPT models and image models, and we were able to show that there is ample brilliance bias in generative AI systems, which is not surprising because it comes from human data, but it's very, very, very extreme. If you ask Midjourney, just one more second, to generate images of geniuses or very smart people, you get mostly men.
Are we putting the wrong data into AI?
So when we look at machine learning, right, it's sort of maybe it could be a little bit better, right? Fundamentally, the system works because it's a brain, it's a machine brain with neurons and connections. Yes. The algorithm is different. We know the neurons are not the same as ours and the connections are not the same as ours, but it's fundamentally inspired by the human brain. And what's different is we're feeding it way more data than any of us could ever dream
Consume.
of
Yes.
a lifetime, right? And it's not identical to us. We are still better at certain things, but it's unambiguously better than us. Like if you just look at ChatGPT or any of the image models, unambiguously better than us at a ton of stuff. So we need to kind of get over this idea that somebody is better or worse. It's a slightly different brain. And the best stuff we have right now learns on data. And honestly, if you look back at like the 1980s when people didn't use data because there was not enough processing power for that, expert systems were much more limited. You had to figure out how you do things and then just teach the machine those rules. And that worked in many ways. There were really cool systems like Aaron and Amy that were made using kind of this human introspection approach. We're going to figure out what we're doing in our head and we're going to manually teaching it to the machine. And, it's not nearly as good as data-driven stuff. I actually, for my kind of machine learning expertise as a professor in the space, learning from data is how you should be doing things if you want to do things well. There's a lot of details there about doing it ethically, but kind of fundamentally, by far the best AI we have right now and are going to have for the foreseeable future, it uses data.
Well, you know what? Then the answer to all of this is basically no. AI cannot replace humanity. Why? Because we ingesting data, old and new data or recent, but not future data. Because we the humans, we the creative these future data, and we are the innovative people. We the creative people.
No, please forgive me. No.
Human are creative, innovative.
More creative, but in many ways, machines are more creative than us. It's not one-to-one. It's not about who is better. It's not a competition. In some ways, machines have creative advantages. In some ways, we do. And that's why the partnership is so powerful.
Okay, you have Picasso comes up with a beautiful, all these beautiful painting that Picasso did. Okay, you put it in and machine learning say, I can make one. But you're not going to make something different. Like it's innovative, it's art, it's creativity.
Bob, you can't.
But based on what he did.
You can come up with new styles. We all come up with stuff based on what other people did.
Yes, as creative humans, what I'm saying. But the machine will come up with it based on, how should I say, not the future sound or the future look of Picasso, the future...
Machines can come up with new styles. It's not something well known. Bob, I know that this is.
This is your field. That's why I'm having this conversation.
It makes people extremely uncomfortable. But there is a machine called IMS that came up with a new musical style before the AI boom. Deep Dream came up with a brand new style that kind of looks hallucinatory. So machines have come up with valuable new styles. There is new classical styles that machines have come up with that classical musicians have admitted to being incredible. So this is not something that the popular systems are focusing on because it makes people uncomfortable, but mostly because it's easier to see how to make a quick buck by being imitative. Yep. AI systems are very, very, very capable of going to new places. We also learn from data. And when we go to new places, we are still using old data for it. The way that you use your machine, the details of the algorithm, determines the level of novelty. Creativity is novelty plus value. And sometimes it's about being willing to recognize that a new style is valuable. So we need to give our machines the freedom to deviate from the training data. And this is this is something we can control. It's just something that the big systems and the investors are not focusing on. But it's not an inherent limitation of the system. And I'm sorry, I know it makes people uncomfortable, but machines, they could replace us. I actually think that there is a risk of that. That's why what's important is to have the value system to not use the machines to replace us. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. So it's a discomfort that we keep trying to say why the machines are not creative enough. But that's not the real bottleneck. Human evil is the real bottleneck. And we need to use these powerful machines in the right way to move humanity forward.
Dr. Maya Ackerman, that's why I love having you here. The information you bring, really so insightful, amazing, really amazing. I always learn from every conversation I have with you, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners and entrepreneurs in tech gonna find this extremely insightful and so in depth. Amazing. I really thank you. I would say, what's the future for Dr. Maya Ackerman, for AI? Do you foresee anything changing in the next year or two for AI and for you, obviously?
Well, I'm going to fight very, very hard to make creative AI going in the right direction. So I'm writing a book. Please follow me on LinkedIn in the meantime. That's the best way to stay in touch with me. Follow me on LinkedIn. So the book is going to come out within about a year. There's some super exciting stuff coming up with WaveAI as far as really deeply supporting musicians with amazing technology. And I'm really fighting to help innovators, to help investors understand how to use this incredibly powerful technology in a way that elevates humanity, moves us in the right direction while making people a lot of money. Because it really can go hand in hand. We're really so privileged to live in this time, when such a massive shift is happening in our evolution as humanity.
Yes.
And I really feel a deep responsibility to help move it in the right direction.
Should I say, an advice from Dr. Maya Ackerman for our new wave generation of entrepreneurs, women and men of all ages who are taking a path into AI and into getting their PhD, or they want to pursue a study into computer science and all of that?
So I would say one thing that I find to be most important is use the tools, use them, and turn on your own human intuition. Don't just go reading everybody else's stuff. So often, the most ridiculous thing about our society, the most ridiculous thing, is that people are taught to stop listening to themselves. There are experts out there who know better than you. No, like all other animals on this planet, like humans have always been, we have incredible intuition. And the most powerful people learn to tap in to their own inner resources and trust their own gut and their own instinct. And that's really the key to success. So go and use all these tools. Use them, use them, use them. Get your gut involved. Learn them until you understand them. And then use your own intuition and your own insight to move this field in the right direction.
You heard it first on Entrepreneurs in Tech. We'll love having her here, and probably another summit we're going to do, the Humble Machine in the background. I love that. I didn't come up with it. I have to give the credit to Dr. Maya Ackerman. So this is dedicated to you, obviously, because it's your idea, and I love it. Dr. Maya Ackerman, and really it's an honor, as always, to speak to you, to see you, and to have you on Entrepreneurs in Tech. You always grace the show with your presence and knowledge, and you're foreseeing the future of AI and your ideas. I want to thank you for joining us today on Innovate Present Entrepreneurs in Tech. Be sure to connect with us on social media. And until next time, keep innovating, stay curious, and think outside the box, just like Dr. Maya Ackerman said and does.
Thank you so much, Bob. It was a real pleasure.
My pleasure. Always, always, always great to have you and speak to you. Thanks again. Appreciate it.